Running from the cops is the ultimate double or nothing. Shower thoughts. If Eminem's mom wanted to, she could probably make a good amount of money selling her own spaghetti sauce. Biting your tongue while eating is a perfect example of how you could still screw up even with decades of experience. People are so amazed by the fact that every snowflake is different, but nobody cares that every potato is unique. Telemarketers have basically ruined the telephone as a tool for contacting people quickly because no one bothers to answer it anymore. If you're alone when you crack open a peanut shell and eat the peanut inside, you're the only person in the world to have ever seen that peanut. Monopoly would be more realistic if the person with the most money got to change the rules whenever they like. If everyone on Earth died simultaneously, the entire internet would be comprised entirely of bots posting, liking, and upvoting each other. Babysitters are teenagers who behave like grown-ups so that grown-ups can go out and behave like teenagers. Growing up is realizing you get more joy out of seeing others open presents than you do from opening your own. I wonder how many times I've walked past or come into contact with a murderer. Shower thoughts. Your password has probably locked you out more times than it has locked other people out. You can remember that you forgot something, but you can't remember what you just forgot. The tallest person in the world has physically experienced being the exact height of every other person in the world at some point. Watching a graduation ceremony is essentially just sitting through a movie that's entirely end credits. Fish who are caught and released are like the aquatic equivalent of people who claim to have been abducted by aliens. Anxiety is like when video game combat music is playing but you can't find any enemies. Light bulbs were such a good idea that they became the symbol for a good idea. A lemon is not naturally occurring. It's a hybrid developed by crossbreeding a bitter orange and a citron, so life never gave us lemons, we invented them ourselves. If the oldest person on Earth is 116 years old, then 117 years ago, there was a completely different set of human beings on Earth. History classes are only gonna get longer and harder as time goes on. Most of my clothes have been to countries that I have not. A group of squid should be called a squad. We say hair when referring to lots of it, but we say hairs when referring to a few. I have no idea what I've forgotten. Getting birthday money is the real life equivalent of passing go and collecting $200. If I'm lucky, my internal organs will never see the light of day. Mother Nature not only pre-sliced, but also pre-wrapped oranges. The quote, "My entire life has led up to this moment," is always true. Asking someone where are you is a recent thing. Before we had phones, the only way we could talk to people is if we knew where they were. The universe could have just started 5 seconds ago in this exact situation and nobody would know. There must have been a brief window in human history where it was weirder to see a stranger in clothing than it was to see a stranger without. June is like Friday, July is like Saturday, and August is like Sunday. Spacesuits are literally made to protect astronauts from nothing. There's one day every year where we unknowingly pass the anniversary of the day the dinosaurs were wiped out by an asteroid. Why do people say tuna fish when we don't say beef mammal or chicken bird? In order to fall asleep, you have to pretend to be asleep. When you bite down on something, you're actually biting up because you can't move your top jaw. Arms is another word for guns, and guns is another word for arms. Once you have a PhD, every meeting you go to becomes a doctor's appointment. Childbirth is literally an emergency. I will be the last person to die in my lifetime. Humans have a 16-hour battery life. Acquired taste is the Stockholm syndrome of the flavor world. The reason cheaters never win is because the cheaters that did win didn't get caught. Teach a man to fish, he'll pay you once. Sell a man a fish, and he'll pay you for a lifetime. It would make more sense if 3 had the value of 4 because the number 3 looks like half of the number 8. The sinking of the Titanic must have been a miracle to the lobsters in the kitchen. Minivans have sliding doors so children don't open them into other cars. Horses must be the most farted upon creatures in the whole world. My right elbow has never been touched by my right hand. Computer labs should flicker its lights every now and then to remind students to save their work. Lobsters are mermaids to scorpions. All of our pets might have Stockholm syndrome. If 2 people on the opposite sides of the world each drop a piece of bread, the earth briefly becomes a sandwich. If I throw around large amounts of shredded bread on public property, my proximity to ducks determines whether or not I'm littering. The 2 worst sentences you can get are life and death. Your stomach thinks all potato is mashed. The word supervision sounds a lot cooler than it really is. If anyone was given the challenge to fall asleep in 10 minutes in exchange for $1 million, almost everyone would fail miserably. You can't get in a store to buy clothes if you don't already own clothes. 1,000 terabyte hard drives full of data weigh the same as 1,000 terabyte hard drives with no data. A deaf person in handcuffs loses their right to free speech. Most of us have dead bodies in our fridges, they just aren't people. Technically speaking, wouldn't your best friend be your worst enemy? If we ever colonize another planet, how will we determine age? Using a gallon of paint to paint a room removes a gallon of usable volume from that room. Good health is the slowest way to die. Nothing lasts longer than that video someone is showing you that you have no interest in. When you travel, people seem friendlier because you are more open to having conversation with strangers. The CIA probably has some good geoguessers on their payroll. Your baby teeth are out there somewhere. At least one kid was honest enough to press no when prompted the question, "Are you over 18?" The 2 main characters on VeggieTales are technically fruits. Distributing flyers door to door is just organized littering. Multi-language instruction manuals are in fact modern-day Rosetta Stones. In movies, dogs are unpaid actors. Since people only kill the spiders they see, humans are acting as an agent of natural selection, causing spiders to be selected for reclusion and intelligence. The way we treat moths versus the way we treat butterflies is the prime example of pretty privilege. People laugh about how cats love boxes, but if there was suddenly a box bigger than you in your living room, you'd probably go into it too. A guy walking around with one crowbar is more suspicious than a guy walking around with 3 crowbars. Somebody at Google was like, yeah, just have somebody drive down every road on the entire earth. It would be cool if after you died, you could see the top 5 moments you almost died. Sunny D tastes like someone made a bet that they could make orange juice without the oranges. Both concrete and glass are mostly made of sand, which makes skyscrapers just really tall sand castles. Worms and apples have been less of a problem than we expected as kids. The spiders that live in Buckingham Palace right now are probably the descendants of the spiders that lived there during the Victorian times, so it's a whole royal family of spiders. Most of the trash you see on the ground is unhealthy food packaging because people who don't care about their own health don't care about the Earth's health either. Someone made up dinosaur sounds without ever hearing them. Thermometers are speedometers for atoms. The first person who inhaled helium must have been so relieved when the effects wore off. When shopping, filling up your reusable tote bag looks completely normal, but stuffing your groceries into your backpack looks very shady. 11 babies have been born in Antarctica, and none of them died as infants, which means Antarctica has the lowest infant mortality rate at 0%. Security at every level of an airport is absolutely ridiculous, until you get to the baggage claim, then you could just grab whatever you want. Watching a graduation ceremony is like sitting through a movie that's entirely end credits. At the age of 60, Snoop Dogg will be 420 in dog years. Placing hand sanitizers in elevators would probably increase their usage simply because people have nothing else to do. Good drivers miss their turns more often than bad drivers. Giraffes probably don't know what their own farts smell like. At some point in the future, geography will start to incorporate astronomy as humans travel further into outer space. There is an inverse relationship between how well you know someone and how much you clean your house before having them over. Nothing makes you sweat like remembering you didn't put on deodorant. There is no practical difference between 3 urinals and 4. The ad for the first TV with colors must have been in black and white. All superheroes are villains if you're a construction worker. In your dreams, you're just laughing at your own jokes. It's really easy to forget that vanilla is black. When you drink water on a hike, the things you're carrying feels lighter even though your total weight hasn't changed. An inheritance is just your relatives dropping loot when they die. Mosquitoes sure are brave for only having 1 HP. If you were invisible, you could have a perfectly normal relationship with a blind person. Single-player games that don't require internet are going to be extremely valuable during the apocalypse. If you can't look back at your younger self and realize that you were an idiot, you probably still are one. If it weren't for movies, the average person would probably have no idea what an elevator shaft looks like. Social anxiety is basically just conspiracy theories about yourself. Traditions are basically just dead people peer pressuring us. If you won the award of the first man to break 2 world records, that would make it 3 awards, which means you would win the award of the first man to break 3 records, so now you have infinite awards. Google Earth in all its detail is an unprecedented accomplishment for mankind. No one even 100 years ago would believe it could exist. And it's free. If a morgue worker dies, they'd still need to come into work one more time. Posting newborns' weight and length makes childbirth rather too similar to fishing. Bob's Burgers would also be an appropriate title for SpongeBob SquarePants. The fact that we can't fully control our own organs and bodily functions is like we don't have admin privileges of our own bodies. Expensive paintings are basically just trading cards for the rich. People who don't indicate in traffic are the people who literally are not willing to lift a finger to help cooperate. The asteroid that ended the dinosaurs was technically the highest ratio of killing birds to 1 stone in Earth's history. Amish girls have no way of knowing if it's a romantic candlelit dinner or just a regular dinner. If holy water kills vampires, then putting holy water in a humidifier is making holy gas. You just made a gas chamber for vampires. The man who invented the internet is 80 years old now. If you see him walk down the street, you'll think he's just another dude who doesn't know how to use the internet. If the earth is flat, maybe the dinosaurs live on the other side and we keep digging up their dead and buried. If Google continues to keep Google Earth updated, then in a few hundred years, people will actually be able to walk around in history. Eyebrows are so weird. It's in the most random spot and it cuts off from hair to skin so suddenly. You won't find very many negative reviews for parachutes online. All languages travel at the speed of sound, but sign language travels at the speed of light. You could throw a rock into a lake and be the last person to ever touch that rock until the end of time. One of the worst feelings is the feeling of your sleeves sliding down your wrists as you wash your hands. Deciding to become a parent is like choosing to take care of a drunk person for 13 years straight, a hungover person for the next 5, then paying the rehab for the next 4. Spicy wings are the absolute pinnacle of human evolution. You're eating the wings a bird uses to fly away from predators covered in the chemical that spicy plants use as a defense mechanism. Maybe nature makes us adore baby animals so much so we don't run out of food by limiting the supply too early. The syllables in even on your mark, get set, go are a countdown. Shower thoughts. When you're a kid, you don't realize you're also watching your mom and dad grow up. The biggest flex is using mobile data in your own home because the Wi-Fi is being slow. Pavlov probably thought about feeding his dogs every time someone rang a bell. They don't let you smile in passport photos because they want you to look the same as if you were standing in line at customs for an hour. During a nuclear explosion, there's a certain distance of the radius where all of the frozen supermarket pizzas are cooked to perfection. Avatar, the highest grossing film of all time, seems to have made zero impact on culture. No one makes reference to it at all since it was released. Coffee makes you hyper, but coffee shops are designed for people to chill, whereas alcohol is a depressant, but bars and clubs are designed for people to be more energetic. The night before a day off is more satisfying than the actual day off. The internet both almost killed off the postal service with email and then made it more needed than ever with online delivery.